Let's bring in Nancy Cortez on Capitol Hill and Paula Reid at the White House. Nancy, I want to begin with you. We've just learned that House Republicans are considering temporarily assigning Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. That's the panel that will conduct the public impeachment hearings. How unusual is that move?
It's quite unusual, Elaine, especially if they're only thinking of adding him for a couple of key weeks. And that is the period during which the House Intelligence Committee will be holding public hearings where they'll be bringing some of these individuals like Yovanovitch, most likely, back, but before the American people this time. And both sides view this as a very high stakes endeavor, really a chance for them to make their case to the American public. One Democrat told me this weekend that you really need to think of the American public as the jury here. So they want to put their best foot forward. And clearly Republicans believe they may need a little more firepower on the House Intelligence Committee. Jordan isn't a member of the committee, but he is the top Republican on the House Oversight Committee. He's been sitting through all of these depositions, and he's been coming out and fiercely defending this president like almost no one else. So you can see why Republicans are considering taking this very unusual step.
And Nancy, earlier on Monday, 4 Trump administration officials defied subpoenas from House Democrats. Who are these officials that investigators want to question?
A couple of them are top White House lawyers. One is the lawyer who decided to move this call summary that was very controversial, the call between the president of the U.S. and the president of Ukraine, into a highly classified server to shield it from prying eyes. But all of the individuals decided not to show up. Some cited executive privilege. This one lawyer was told, John Eisenberg, was told directly by the president himself not to appear. Democrats say this is all fodder for their growing case for at least one article of impeachment centered around what they describe as the president's obstruction of justice.
Well, Paula, how is the president reacting to the release of the transcripts by some of these witnesses?
Well, even before they were released, Elaine, the president was suggesting that Democrats cannot be trusted to release fair and accurate transcripts, and he called on his fellow Republicans to release their own transcripts. Now, a short time ago, the president left for an event in Kentucky. He took only a handful of questions, though, from reporters. Usually when he comes to talk to us, he stays for quite some time. But it appeared he did not want to answer a lot of questions about what was revealed in these transcripts. For example, when he was asked about Marie Yovanovitch, he denied knowing her. He said, I don't know her. She may be a perfectly nice woman. But in the past, Elaine, the president has said, in fact, he had heard very bad things about her, and that is part of why she was no longer in his administration.
All right. Well, Nancy, the Justice Department concluded that senior White House advisors have, quote, unquote, absolute immunity from congressional subpoenas. So what is the next move here for House Democrats?
Well, they don't have many next moves if they want to try to compel testimony and if they want to try to stay on this very rapid timeline where they move into public hearings as soon as next week, try to transfer everything that they've gathered over to the House Judiciary Committee by the start of December. And so they are going to probably have to cut their losses at some point. It doesn't mean that they won't try to depose these individuals at some later date. It doesn't mean that they won't continue these fights in the court, but these individuals may have bought themselves enough time that they never have to testify. And Democrats know that, but they feel such urgency to try to keep things moving along. They say they'd like to hear from these individuals, but they argue they already do know enough based on what they've heard so far, and they're going to keep moving forward.
Well, Paula, a lawyer for the whistleblower says his client is willing to answer Republicans' questions in writing under oath. How is the White House responding to that offer?
The president, once again, taking over the messaging, answering all of these questions. He said yesterday that he believes it's not enough to just do written answers to questions. He wants the whistleblower to come forward and do in-person answers. Now, what's interesting about this is during the special counsel's investigation into Russian meddling, Elaine, as you may remember, the president didn't sit down across from investigators. He submitted written answers. And he was asked about that a short time ago. It's why is there one standard for the whistleblower and another one for you? The president completely dodged that question and instead continued his attacks on the whistleblower, trying to undermine this individual's credibility.
Interesting. Well, Paula, on a different topic, a federal appeals court in New York ruled on Monday that President Trump's tax returns can be turned over to state criminal investigators. How significant is that ruling?
This is significant, though the president's attorneys are going to try to do everything they can to keep these returns private. CBS News has learned that they're going to appeal this to the Supreme Court. They're going to argue that while the president is in office, he's protected from any criminal proceedings. But this appeals court, they ruled they don't think the president is actually going to win on that at the high court when this eventually makes it up to the Supreme Court justices if they choose to hear this issue. They argue that while the president may enjoy some immunity, the president's accountants are not protected from subpoenas and that they may be compelled to pass these returns off to these state investigators.
Right, a busy Monday for us. Nancy Cordes and Paula Reid, thank you both for helping us sort through it.
You're welcome.